Chapter 6, The Campus of Rules. The letter came at dusk, slid under Ethan's door with a sound like a dry leaf scraping stone. He picked it up before the paper finished settling, already knowing what it contained. The envelope was the same pale grey as the last two, the wax seal stamped with the 3 overlapping circles that marked a Bloodgate trial. He broke the seal with his thumb and unfolded the single sheet inside. Asterisk to Ethan Cole asterisk. Asterisk you are summoned to the Blackwood University campus. Report to the main lecture hall no later than 8 p.m. Failure to arrive will result in forfeiture of your current fragments and permanent expulsion from the trial sequence. Asterisk. That was new. Expulsion. Permanent. He read the line twice, then folded the letter into his pocket. Outside his room, the hallway of Blackhaven was quiet, the gas lamps flickering in their rusted sconces. He passed the common room where Maya sat reading by the fire, her eyes lifting as he walked by. You got one. It wasn't a question. Blackwood University, he said, stopping at the doorway. Third trial. Maya set her book down, the leather cover creaking. University trials are nasty. They love layered rules, things you have to remember in sequence, triggers that compound. The longer you stay, the more constraints pile up. She rubbed her temple. I did one 2 years ago. Lost a good man to a forgetting curse. He couldn't remember the third rule by the second night. Ethan stepped inside and sat in the chair across from her. What do you know about Blackwood? Only rumors. It's one of the older sites, predates the Grey by a few decades, I think. My trial was in a different university, but they share a structure. Dorms, lecture halls, libraries. Mirrors are always a problem in academic trials. Something about reflection and self-image. She paused. There's a rumor that the Gate of Threads ran experiments there. Modified the Aberration, tailored it to break people faster. I don't know if it's true, but if Silas has been there, you should be careful. Silas. The old-timer who had been helpful but evasive, whose gaze lingered a beat too long on Ethan's fragments. Ethan had no proof, but the man's eyes held the weight of someone who knew more than he said. I'll be careful, Ethan said. Maya studied him. You always say that. And you always come back. She almost smiled. Try to keep doing that. He left her in the firelight and climbed the stairs to his room. The clock on the landing read 6:15. He had less than 2 hours to prepare. The bus came at 7:30, materializing out of a fog that had no business being indoors. The same bus as always, yellowed headlights, rust-eaten frame, the number 13 above the windshield. Ethan climbed aboard and found 3 other passengers already seated. A young woman with a bandaged hand, clutching a backpack. A middle-aged man in a rumpled suit, his eyes fixed on the floor. A boy who couldn't have been older than 16, wearing a hoodie that sagged over his thin frame. They did not look at him. They did not look at each other. Ethan took a seat near the back, his back to the window, and watched the fog consume the world outside. The bus groaned into motion, its engine a rattling wheeze, and soon the only sound was the hum of tires over cobblestones that shouldn't have existed in this part of the city. The ride lasted 20 minutes. When the bus stopped, the doors hissed open onto a campus that was both ordinary and profoundly wrong. The buildings had the classical architecture of an old university, red brick, ivy creeping up limestone columns, wrought iron lampposts casting pools of amber light. But the grass was black, the trees bare and twisted, and the air smelled of damp paper and something metallic, like old blood diluted with rain. Ethan stepped off the bus. The other 3 followed, silent and stiff, as if they had been drugged. He checked his phone, 7:55 p.m. The main lecture hall stood at the end of a wide path, its double doors open like a mouth waiting to swallow them. We should go in, he said. The others looked at him with blank, scared faces. The woman with the bandaged hand nodded. They walked together, for strangers entering a dead university. The lecture hall was a vast amphitheater descending in tiers to a stage lit by harsh fluorescent lights. The seats were wooden, worn smooth by generations of students, but the air held no scent of chalk or sweat. It smelled of dust and ozone, like a room sealed for decades. A man stood on the stage. He was tall, gaunt, wearing a tweed jacket with leather patches at the elbows. His face was pale, his hair thin and graying, his eyes magnified behind thick round glasses. He looked like a professor from an old photograph, except for the blood that dripped from his left hand and pooled on the floorboards. "Welcome," he said, and his voice was soft, almost kind. "Welcome to Blackwood University. I am Professor Julian Croft. I will be your guide for this orientation." He smiled, and his teeth were too white. "The rules are simple. You will find them posted in every building, in every dormitory, in every classroom. Obey them, and you may survive. Disobey, and you will be removed from the student body." He gestured to a screen behind him. The lights dimmed, and text appeared, white on black. *** Campus Rules, Blackwood University ***. 1. All mirrors must be covered at all times. If you see your reflection, look away immediately and report to the administration office. 2. No one may answer a knock after midnight. Doors are to remain locked until dawn. 3. The library closes at 9 p.m. Do not enter after closing. 4. Students must not speak to the statue in the quadrangle. 5. If you hear your name called from a room you cannot identify, do not respond. Continue walking. 6. The last rule: there is always a hidden rule. Find it, and you may earn your degree. Ethan read the list twice, memorizing each line. The hidden rule clause was new, a meta-rule that acknowledged the existence of secrets. That was unusual. Most trials hid the rules within the environment, not announced them up front. The professor clasped his bloody hands behind his back. "You will be housed in North Dormitory, room 213. Your orientation packet includes a campus map, a schedule of classes, and your student IDs. Your first class is tomorrow at 8 a.m. in this hall. Attendance is mandatory." He smiled again, wider this time. "Do try to keep up. Blackwood has a high dropout rate." The lights flickered, and when they steadied, the professor was gone. The stage was empty, the only trace of his presence a smear of blood on the floor. The woman with the bandaged hand let out a shaky breath. "That's it. We just get rules and a schedule." Ethan picked up the packet from the seat next to him. It contained a campus map, a laminated ID card with his photo, taken without his knowledge, and a small booklet titled ** Student Handbook Star. He flipped through the booklet. It echoed the rules, added a few minor ones about noise after 10 p.m. and proper attire in academic buildings, and included a map of the campus with buildings labeled. "We should find the dormitory before midnight," he said. "We need to cover all mirrors." The middle-aged man nodded. "Right. Of course. Mirrors. Cover them." They left the lecture hall and walked across the quadrangle. The statue mentioned in the rules stood at the center, a bronze figure of a woman holding a book, her face worn smooth by weather. No one spoke to it. The boy in the hoodie glanced at it and quickly looked away. The dormitory was a 4-story building with dark windows and a single light over the entrance. Room 213 was on the second floor, a suite with 4 beds, 4 desks, and a shared bathroom. The bathroom had a large mirror over the sink. Ethan found a towel and draped it over the glass before anyone could catch their reflection. "What's the rule about mirrors?" the woman asked. "Why do we have to cover them?" "Something about seeing yourself," the man said. "In my last trial, a mirror could trap your soul. Or let something else look out." Ethan checked the time, 8:30 p.m. They had 3.5 hours until midnight. "We should split up, explore the campus. Get familiar with the layout before we're locked in for the night." The woman hesitated. "Is that safe?" "It's safer than being caught by surprise tomorrow." They divided the map. The woman took the science building, the man the library, the boy the administration block. Ethan chose the humanities building, a squat, brick structure at the edge of campus, its windows dark. The humanities building smelled like old paper and mildew. Ethan pushed through the front doors and found himself in a hallway lined with bulletin boards. Tattered notices for defunct clubs, a schedule for a film series that ended in 1997, a flyer for a study abroad program to a country that no longer existed. The grey had swallowed many places, but this campus seemed frozen in a time before the collapse. He walked down the corridor, his footsteps echoing. The lights flickered, casting long shadows. He passed classrooms with desks overturned, chalkboards with mathematics half erased, a coffee cup sitting on a windowsill as if the owner had just stepped away. A mirror hung at the end of the hall, covered with a black cloth. Good. Someone had already followed the rule. He checked his packet again. The student handbook listed the floor plan, offices on the first floor, classrooms on the second, and a faculty lounge on the third. He decided to check the lounge. Sometimes hidden rules were hidden in plain sight, a note tacked to a board, a message scratched into a desk. The stairs groaned under his weight. The third floor was darker, the bulbs burnt out in the fixtures. He used the flashlight on his phone to navigate. The faculty lounge door was unlocked. Inside, it looked like a break room from an earlier era, a stained couch, a formica table, a coffee maker with a pot half full of tar. A corkboard hung on the wall, covered with memos and academic articles. Ethan scanned them. Most were mundane, meeting reminders, grant deadlines, a cartoon about the grading system. But one note caught his eye. It was a piece of printer paper, yellowed at the edges, with handwriting in red ink. Asterisk, they don't see me. They never see me. But I see them. I see everything from the reflection. Asterisk. Asterisk, the statue knows. Ask the statue. Asterisk. He memorized the words, then took a photo. The note referenced the statue. Rule 4 said not to speak to it. Yet this note suggested the statue had information. He left the lounge and descended to the first floor. On his way out, he passed a bulletin board in the main hall. Among the flyers was a missing person poster, asterisk Dr. Julian Croft, Professor of Comparative Literature, last seen on campus, December 14th. If you have information, please contact campus security. Asterisk. Julian Croft. The professor who had greeted them. The blood on his hand. He looked at the date on the poster, December 14th, 1999. Over 30 years ago. Ethan pulled the poster off the board and folded it into his pocket. Back at the dormitory, the others had gathered in the common room on the first floor. The woman with the bandaged hand sat on a couch, her knees pulled up. The man paced by the window. The boy stared at the floor. Anything? Ethan asked. The science building has a room full of mirrors, the woman said. They're all covered, but I heard something behind them. Scratching. Like something was trying to get out. The library is locked, the man said. But I found a side door open. Inside, it's dark. I didn't go far. There were whispers. The boy shook his head. Admin building was empty. But there was a photograph in the principal's office. A class photo from 1999. Everyone in it had their faces crossed out. Ethan showed them the note he'd found. Someone left a message. It says to ask the statue. That goes against Rule 4. So it's a trap, the man said. The note is trying to make us break a rule. Or it's the hidden rule, Ethan said. The list said there's always a hidden rule. Maybe talking to the statue is actually required. The woman frowned. But why would they put a rule that says not to do something, then hide a clue that tells you to do it? That's sadistic. That's the Bloodgate, Ethan said. The rules are meant to be questioned. The first trial had a hidden rule that contradicted the surface rule. The second had a rule that punished you if you followed it literally. This might be the same pattern. He looked at the clock on the wall. 11:20 p.m. 40 minutes until midnight. We should get to our room and lock the door. No one answers a knock after midnight. They climbed the stairs together. Room 213 had a single door with a deadbolt. Ethan turned the lock and checked the windows. They were sealed shut, painted over. The bathroom mirror remained covered. We need to sleep in shifts, the woman said. Someone should stay awake and watch. I'll take first watch, Ethan said. Wake me at 3. The others settled onto their beds. The boy curled into a ball, his face to the wall. The man lay on his back, staring at the ceiling. The woman sat cross-legged on her bed, her bandaged hand resting in her lap. Ethan pulled the chair to face the door and sat down. The minutes crawled. The building was silent except for the faint hum of electrics. At 11:58, a sound came from the hallway. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, approaching. Ethan tensed. The footsteps stopped at their door. A knock. 3 slow taps. Then a voice, soft and familiar, "Ethan. It's Maya. I came to warn you. Open the door." Maya's voice. Impossible. She was not in the trial. The rules said no one could enter after the trial began. Ethan did not move. "Ethan, please. It's important. The trial is rigged. Silas is here." He wanted to believe it. He could picture her face, her steady hands. But the rule was clear, no answer after midnight. And it was 12:01. He stayed silent. The knocking came again, harder. "Ethan, I know you're in there. Open the door." The other occupants stirred. The woman sat up, her eyes wide. "Who is that?" "No one," Ethan said. "Don't answer." The knocking turned to pounding. The door rattled in its frame. The voice grew desperate, cracking. "Ethan, please. They're going to kill me. You have to help me." He closed his eyes. It was a trick. It had to be. Then the pounding stopped. The voice faded into a whisper, then silence. Ethan let out a breath. The clock on the wall ticked to 12:05. The boy whispered, "What was that?" "A test," Ethan said. "We passed." But he didn't feel like they had. The next morning came grey and cold. Ethan woke from a restless sleep to find the room unchanged, the door still locked. The woman was awake, sitting by the window, her bandaged hand pressed to the glass. "There's someone outside," she said. Ethan joined her. On the quadrangle, a figure stood by the statue, a tall man in a tweed jacket, his hands clasped behind his back. Professor Croft. He appeared to be talking to the bronze woman. "He's speaking to the statue," Ethan said. "That means he's breaking Rule 4. Or he's the one who makes the rules." They gathered their things and prepared for the first class. The schedule said 8 a.m. in the main lecture hall. They arrived at 7:45. The hall was empty, the lights on, the stage clean. No professor. No blood. They took seats in the front row. The minutes passed. At 8 o'clock sharp, the lights flickered, and Professor Croft appeared on stage, his hands now clean, his glasses reflecting the light. "Good morning, students. I trust you slept well." He smiled. "Or at least, you survived. That is the first lesson." He turned to a blackboard and began writing. Today's lecture, The Nature of Rules. Rules are not arbitrary. They are reflections of the environment. They tell you about the nature of the aberration that controls this space. To survive, you must understand what the rules are hiding. He drew a circle on the board. Consider a mirror. The rule says cover all mirrors. Why? Because the aberration uses them as windows. It can see you, and if you see yourself, you give it permission to step through. The mirror is a door, and the reflection is the key. Ethan listened, his mind working. The aberration was a professor driven to suicide by academic bullying. That was the story from the chapter summary. But the rules here felt more abstract, tied to mirrors and forbidding speech with a statue. After the lecture, Croft dismissed them with a warning: "Your first assignment is due at midnight. Find the hidden rule. Write it down and place it in the box outside my office. Failure to submit will result in immediate failure." They left the hall, the weight of the assignment pressing on them. "We have to talk to the statue," the woman said. The note said to ask it. It also said not to speak to it, the man countered. "We could be killed." Ethan considered. The hidden rule might be that we have to break one rule to find it. But which one? Mirror rule, statue rule, midnight knock rule, they all seem equally dangerous. "We could test it," the boy suggested quietly. "One of us does it, the others watch. And if the one person dies, then we know it's not that." The woman shook her head. "That's inhuman. It's survival." Ethan separated from them, needing to think. He walked toward the library, which had been closed the night before. Now it was open, the doors wide. He entered and found a cavernous space, stacks stretching upward into shadows. The lights were dim, the air cool. A librarian sat at a desk, her face hidden behind a stack of books. "Can I help you?" Her voice was dry, rustling like paper. "I'm looking for information on Professor Julian Croft," Ethan said. She gestured to a terminal. "The catalog is free. But I warn you, some books bite." He sat at the terminal and searched. The database was old, the interface text-only. He typed Croft, Julian. Results, 2 items. 1. * The Mirror and the Lamp * by Julian Croft, 1995. 2. * Proceedings of the Blackwood University Inquiry into the Disappearance of Dr. Julian Croft * 2000. He noted the shelf numbers and went to find them. The stacks were a maze, each aisle lined with books that seemed to shift when he looked away. He found the first book, a literary analysis text, and flipped through it. Nothing unusual. The second was a bound collection of transcripts. He sat on the floor and read. The inquiry had taken place after Croft's disappearance. Faculty members were interviewed. Students gave testimony. It painted a picture of a man slowly broken by the academic system, rejected grant proposals, a rival professor who stole his research, a department chair who dismissed his complaints, and finally, an anonymous letter circulated among the faculty accusing him of plagiarism. He had withdrawn from all teaching. One student reported seeing him wandering the campus at night, talking to himself. Another said he had become obsessed with the bronze statue in the quadrangle, believing it was the only thing that understood him. Then, on December 14, 1999, he vanished. Ethan read the final pages. A footnote mentioned that the statue had been donated by a foundation connected to an organization known as the Gate of Threads. The timing of the donation coincided with Croft's first episodes of paranoia. The Gate of Threads. They had been here, influencing the aberration before it was even an aberration. He photocopied the relevant pages and returned the files to the shelf. As he walked back through the stacks, he passed a mirror. It was uncovered. He stopped, instinctively turning his head away. But he had glimpsed something, not his own reflection, but a figure standing behind him, a man in a tweed jacket. He looked back. The mirror showed only him. He left the library, his heart beating faster. That evening, they met in the dormitory common room. Ethan shared what he had found. The statue was placed by the Gate of Threads. Croft became obsessed with it. "I think the statue is the key to the hidden rule. So we have to talk to it," the woman said. "But the rule says not to." "Maybe the rule is a lie," Ethan said. "Or maybe it's a test of who is worthy." They debated late into the night. The man argued against it. The boy was silent. The woman wavered. Finally, Ethan stood. "I'll do it. Alone. If I don't come back, you'll know." "That's not fair," the woman said. "Fair doesn't matter. Surviving does." He left before they could stop him. The quadrangle was empty, the sky cloud-covered, the only light a dim glow from the dormitory windows. The statue stood at the center, her bronze face smooth and eyeless. He walked up to her, his footsteps loud in the silence. He cleared his throat. "I need to know the hidden rule." The statue did not move. He waited. Nothing. He tried again. "Professor Croft talked to you. What did he see?" A sound. A whisper, so faint he thought he imagined it. It came from the statue's mouth, a bronze voice that scraped like stone on stone. The reflection is a door. The door is a mouth. The mouth speaks the truth. He leaned closer. "What truth?" He is not who he was. You are not who you think. Look into the mirror and see what is behind you. Ethan stepped back, turning. Behind him, the dormitory building was dark, but in the windows he saw many reflections, none of them his. The statue fell silent. He had the clue. The hidden rule was about mirrors, not just covering them, but using them. The reflection was a door. The aberration could step through if you looked, but maybe you could also step through if you knew how. He hurried back to the dormitory. The others were waiting. He told them what the statue had said. "So the hidden rule is that we must look into a mirror?" The man asked. "That contradicts Rule 1. "Maybe it's a choice," Ethan said. "The surface rule protects us from the aberration. But the hidden rule lets us confront it." The assignment is to find the hidden rule and submit it, not necessarily to obey it. The woman shook her head. But we have to submit it by midnight. If we submit the wrong thing, we fail. We submit the hidden rule, use the reflection to face the truth. Or something like that. They drafted a submission. Ethan wrote it on a slip of paper, asterisk hidden rule, the mirror is a door. To survive, you must step through and confront the reflection. Asterisk. They took it to the box outside Professor Croft's office, which was in the Humanities building. The box was wooden, with a slot. Ethan slid the paper inside. Nothing happened. No confirmation. No sign. Now we wait, he said. But as they turned to leave, a sound came from the office. A knock. And then Professor Croft's voice, muffled, enter. Ethan looked at the others. The man had gone pale. The woman gripped her bandaged hand. We have to open the door, Ethan said. That's not a rule, the boy whispered. It's an invitation. He pushed the door open. The office was small, cluttered with books and papers. Professor Croft sat behind his desk, his hands folded, his face calm. But his eyes were wrong, too large, too black, like pools of oil. You have completed the assignment, he said. Now you must pass the final examination. He stood, and the air grew cold. The aberration is me. I am the one who was bullied, who was broken, who hanged myself in this office 30 years ago. But the Gate of Threads found me. They gave me purpose. They taught me to spread my suffering to the living. Ethan's hand went to his pocket, where he kept the faded script from the first trial. You don't have to be what they made you. I am what they made me, and I will unmake you. Croft lunged across the desk, his hands suddenly clawed, his mouth opening too wide. Ethan ducked, rolling to the side. The others screamed. The woman threw a chair, which shattered against the professor's chest. They fled the office, slamming the door behind them. The door shook with pounding. We can't outrun him forever, the man gasped. We need a mirror, Ethan said. The statue said the mirror is a door. We need to use it to face him. That's insane. It's the only way. They ran through the Humanities building, looking for a mirror. All were covered. Ethan ripped the cloth off a large mirror in the main hall. The glass rippled, and instead of their reflections, it showed a different room, the office they had just fled, with Croft standing at the center, staring out at them. He can see us through the mirror, the woman said. But we can see him too. Ethan stepped up to the mirror. Professor, I understand your pain. I know what they did to you. But you don't have to be their tool. Croft's image leaned closer, his black eyes boring into Ethan's. You cannot understand. You have never been broken. I have been unmade and remade, Ethan said. The architect did that to me. But I chose to be more than his tool. You can too. He held out his hand. Croft paused. The anger in his face flickered, and for a moment, Ethan saw the man he had been, the tired professor, the bullied scholar, the lonely figure walking the campus at night. They took my legacy, Croft said, his voice cracking. They took my name. They made me a monster. You can give your name back. Let the truth be known. The mirror rippled again. Croft's image reached out, his hand touching the glass from the other side. For a moment, their hands pressed together across the barrier. Then the mirror shattered. Shards flew. Ethan shielded his face. When he looked up, the mirror was a spiderweb of cracks, and in the pieces he saw fragments of a man, the professor, the aberration, now broken apart. The room behind them was empty. The pounding on the office door had stopped. A shimmer of light gathered on the floor, coalescing into a small object, a piece of crystal, glowing with a pale blue light. A fragment. Ethan picked it up. It was warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. The third fragment. He turned to the others. They were shaken but alive. The woman was crying silently. The boy stared at the broken mirror. Is it over? The man asked. For now, Ethan said. But as he looked at the fragment, he noticed something else among the shards. A student ID card, half buried. He picked it up. The photo showed a young woman with dark hair, a sharp jawline, and familiar eyes. Vera. The ID identified her as a student at Blackwood University, class of 2000. He pocketed it without a word. The bus back to Blackhaven arrived at dawn. Ethan stepped off into the grey light of the manor's courtyard, the fragment in his pocket a steady weight. The others had gone their separate ways, the trial completed, but the memory of the professor's pain lingered. He walked through the entrance hall, past the empty common room, toward his room. As he climbed the stairs, he saw Silas standing on the landing, leaning against the banister as if waiting for him. "Ethan," Silas said, his voice smooth, his eyes sharp. "I heard you completed the Blackwood trial. Well done." Ethan stopped, his hand unconsciously going to his pocket where the fragment lay. "Thank you." Silas smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. 3 fragments now. That's impressive. Very few survive long enough to collect 3. Is there a point to this? Only that you should be careful. Some people in Blackhaven are not what they seem. Silas pushed off the banister and walked past him, his shoulder brushing Ethan's. And some are exactly what they seem, which is worse. He disappeared down the hall. Ethan stood for a long moment, his heart pounding. The threat was clear. Silas knew something. And he was not going to wait long. He entered his room and locked the door. Then he took out the student ID and stared at Vera's face. The same Vera who lived in Blackhaven, who claimed to be a fragment in human form. But here she was, a student at a university that had been corrupted decades ago. His head spun with implications. The architect. The life swap. His own blurred memories. A knock came at his door. 3 slow taps. He did not answer. And then a voice, quiet and clear. "Ethan, I know you have my ID. We need to talk. Before Silas comes for you." "Vera." He looked at the lock. And the clock on the wall ticked past midnight, the 3rd night since his return. He opened the door. She stood in the hallway, her dark hair loose, her eyes ancient and tired. She held out her hand. "Give it to me." He handed her the ID. She stared at the photo, her expression unreadable. "I was a student there. Before the grey, before Blackhaven. I had a life. A name. I was studying literature, planning to become a teacher." She laughed, bitter. "Then the trial claimed me. The aberration, it was Croft, but he was already twisted by the gate of threads. They used his death to anchor a permanent rift. And I was caught in it. You became a fragment. I became part of the system. My existence is tied to the blood gate. I am a key, a memory, a person only when someone holds my ID." She looked at him. "You have 3 fragments now. 1 more, and you can open the intermediate gate. But Silas wants your collection for himself. He can try to take them. He will. And he won't fight fair." She stepped closer. "I can help you. But you have to trust me." Ethan looked at her, at the ID in her hands, at the fragment pulsing in his pocket. He had learned not to trust anyone in Blackhaven. But Vera was different. She had been here longer than anyone, and she had no reason to lie. "We need to find the 4th fragment," he said. "Before Silas does." She nodded. "But it's already too late. He knows you have 3. And he has allies inside the manor." From downstairs, a crash. Shouting. Silas's voice, cold and clear. "Ethan Cole, come out. I have a proposition." Vera grasped his arm. "Don't go. He wants to provoke you." But Ethan was tired of hiding. He walked to the stairs, looked down. Silas stood in the entrance hall, flanked by 2 figures in black, their faces obscured by hoods. Behind them, the main door stood open, revealing the fog and the darkness beyond. "I know you have the 3rd fragment," Silas said. "I also know you have something else. A student ID. Evidence of the architect's hand. You're coming with me. Or what?" Silas smiled. "Or I will take the fragments from your corpse." Ethan's hand went to the pocket where he kept the faded script. "You're welcome to try." The tension crackled in the air. The other survivors in the manor stayed hidden, watching from doorways. Maya appeared at the top of another staircase, her face pale, a blade in her hand. "Silas," she said. "Step back." Silas laughed. You always protect the new ones, Maya. But this one is special. He's the architect's pet. He deserves to know the truth before he dies. He reached into his coat and pulled out a vial of black liquid. This is what your blood will become, Ethan. The Grey's gift. A transformation that will twist you into another aberration, another tool. He threw the vial at Ethan's feet. It shattered, and black smoke rose, curling into shapes, faces, hands, grasping and hungry. Ethan turned and ran, pulling Vera with him, down the hall, toward the back exit. The confrontation had begun. And war within Black Haven had officially started.